say accessible vehicle, you probably think of either a minivan, or maybe a minivan, or a minivan. And honestly, nobody wants to think of themselves in a minivan. Now, those who are disabled in a wheelchair don't necessarily have to.
That worked nice.
That's awesome.
Now, I'm no expert on accessible vehicles, but I know who is. The team at the Center for Independent Living in Berkeley.
This would be a wonderful alternative for people who just say, I really just don't want a van.
I had them come out and take a look at the MXV with me.
It's kind of cool that it rolls out. I think style points count for everybody. You know, Tyler over there who drives a Dodge Charger, he bought that car not because it was the most accessible or the most convenient. He bought it because it was an image thing.
Now, the Braun Ability MXV is based on a 16 Explorer, but you look at it and your eye says something isn't right. Is that really an Explorer? Yes. Proportions are different, and what your eye's being drawn to is the fact that it's had its floor between the axle line dropped a large 10 inches. Now let's see where that got them behind the other amazing piece of engineering. This is the coup de grace. What used to be a hinge door on this stock Explorer now becomes what they call a pop-out door. A completely customized, motorized hinge and projector that articulates the door out, and then you've got a built-in belly-stowed power ramp that comes out in sequence with it.
But it looks like it's just enough.
Exactly.
Okay. And you're an experienced operator. You know how to get around tight spaces.
Yeah. So it's cozy, but it works. Yeah.
You ain't want to, drive it around. You ain't want to park right in, get right out. Make it as independent as possible for you and not rely on others.
Now, when Braun gets one of these Explorers, they don't just go down to their local dealer and buy a bunch of them and go on their merry way. This is co-engineered with Ford because it's major engineering. Look at this apparatus that had to be invented to create a pop-out door out of a hinged door. Similarly impressive is what they did to this B-pillar. Look how narrow it is now. This is a deceptively big deal. They had to carve this back to create reasonable, usable wheelchair access with. I mean, look where the right side of that ramp hits. But at the same time, you can't give up crashworthiness. The front seats in the MXV aren't too far from 007's Aston Martin, but they don't eject up, they just come out. Unlock this, rotate this, and you wheel them down the ramp. And when they are in the vehicle, they retain full power adjustment and their airbag function thanks to an impressive wiring harness. The MXV is only available in front-wheel drive. Once you drop the floor 10 inches, there's no way to get a drive shaft to the back for all-wheel drive. Now, as you can see, the MXV is obviously a side access, a side door vehicle. You do also see accessible conversions that are rear access from the back here, and those are almost always minivans, of course. If you do that, however, you do lose what this vehicle has: continued ability to tow. It retains its 5,000-pound towing range. Driving the MXV is not much different than driving a Ford Explorer. I mean, it's got the same basic underpinnings. You get about the same MPG, suggests Braun, maybe a little lower because I think we're carrying some extra weight here, but it's a big vehicle to start with. The handling's about the same, which was never sharp to begin with, but it's not a bad driving vehicle. It isn't Ford's most exciting engine, the base 3.5-liter V6, but you know what? It's fine. It's got good power, and it and the transmission are a happy couple. One of the key things here that does succeed is you've got Ford's much better quality interior from recent years. So you've got almost everything that you get an Explorer for, with, of course, the carve-out of no all-wheel drive. This is a 16, so we have the older Ford Sync system. A 17 would have that replaced with Sync 3, which we like a lot better. Would also eventually be available with Sync Connect, which has a built-in data modem for remote telematic services and connecting to things like Amazon Echo to control your home from your MXV. But that's not in this model. Braun is not quite sure what their roadmap is to convert 17s just yet. If I have one gripe, it is this: there's quite a bit of, maybe you hear it, chirping and chattering coming from the apparatus behind me, the ramp and door assembly, because that really rather rudely interrupts the feeling of luxury and quality you have by going to a vehicle like this. Remember, you get more room in a minivan. You buy this partly because you want accessibility and more style. And chirping and squeaking isn't part of that. Okay, pricing this very special version of the Ford Explorer. When it becomes the Braun Ability MXV, it's about 60 grand. About half of that's the cost of the base Explorer. The other 30, the other half, is the cost of the mods to it. And on top of that, you've got to add $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 for hand controls if needed, depending on the owner's needs. With destination, we're looking at somewhere around 70 grand. Census figures tell me about 3.6 million people in the U.S. use a wheelchair. A large number of those are able to drive, and now they've got a little more choice.
Driving has really changed my life, and it affects every part of my life. It helped me socially, helped me with girls, helped me with jobs, helped me with school.
Now, independence is independence, obviously, but if you can get there with a little more choice of a vehicle that's a little cooler, that looks less apart, and has great cabin tech and nice style inside and out, that's definitely CNET style.
More cars driven CNET style. Standing by now at cnetoncars.com. Click on the road.